You know, this life isn't as black and white, all good and bad, right and wrong, as we tend to think. It's complex, and we're all just humans trying to make sense of it. So, if you're wanting more unity and love in this world, and are ready to step into curiosity, then join me, Brynne Erickson, on Middle Ground. And if you're willing, please leave your biases and preconceived outcomes at the door. Hey everybody, tonight I have another new friend with me. I have Karina Pribil-Corbett. Did I say it right?
Yes, you said it perfectly.
Oh,
Thank you.
yay. Yeah, Karina is a new friend of mine. She is a financial psychologist. This is a new term for me. And I actually love how Karina and I met. She did the smart Instagram move where she liked a couple of my posts and got my attention. And I went and checked out her Instagram and was incredibly intrigued when her Instagram name is Get Emotionally Invested.
Yes, that's
And I
right.
was like, what? Oceans and investing,
How could those two things possibly come
right?
together? Yeah.
So juicy. So I was so excited and I looked her up and I reached out to her. I was like, Karina, I am so excited about what you're doing. And we just had to do a podcast about it. And she's going to teach us how to better understand our relationships with money tonight. So, Karina, how do you feel about being on Middle Ground?
I'm so excited. Obviously a little nervous. But whenever my clients feel nervous about something, I try to remind them that nerves means that it's important to you and that you wouldn't get that anxious energy if you didn't value it. So I very much value having this conversation about money. It's very much a value of mine to educate people on how to have a better relationship with their money. So I'm just feeling extremely grateful that we get to have this conversation and that hopefully we'll be able to um help people develop some tools that they can use with their own finances and with their own relationship. So I'm excited to get started.
Excellent. Let's get into it. So, I would assume that something in your life has led you up to
Yes.
this moment. So, what
Yeah.
in your life has influenced you becoming a financial psychologist?
Yeah. Great question. I, I don't think the average person, when they're asked as a little kid, "What do you wanna be when you grow up?" I don't think any kid answers, "I wanna be a financial counselor." Like, that's
Nice.
just not most people don't
Yes.
even know what financial counseling is, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
a
Right.
relatively new field. Uh, so a little backstory, you know, m I was the classic child where have conservative parents who listen to Dave Ramsey, on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of like my first exposure to finances, and that's kind of who I held as like, oh, this is the gold standard of like how you should treat money is kind of like the Dave Ramsey baby steps. Debt is bad, credit cards are bad, right? All these different kind of scarcity mindset. And it really didn't impact me until I was married, graduated from college, had my first job out of college, and it was not a good job. It was a very toxic work situation that I was in. I was sexually harassed. I The hours I was working were really intense and it even started to impact my health. So after 6 months of working, I I I quit my first job. And that like felt like such a defeat to me just cuz I've always been, straight A student, go after what I want, right? I'm a very ambitious person. Um, but when I left that job, I had this new fire in me that wanted to make sure I was never in a work situation like that again. I never wanted to be in a situation where I worked with creepy men who said creepy things, never wanted to be in a work situation where I couldn't, have a say in my hours and what I did. Um, and so then I just became obsessed with the financial world, and I just started, like, reading as many resources as I could, right? And naturally, I turned back to what I knew in my childhood, right, which was Dave Ramsey, and so I started consuming a lot of his content and reading a lot of other books like Rich Man, Poor Man, um, and even though my finances got better, my OCD, I have scrupulosity, which is I obsess whether what I'm doing is morally correct or not, right? I basically obsess whether if I'm a good person or not. And as I was getting better with money, my OCD was getting heightened. And I now with the education that I have, I realize that, that black and white thinking that Dave Ramsey preaches, that's very fueling for OCD. Um the if you do this, you're a good person. If you have no debt, that is a sign that you are a good person. If you don't have credit cards, then you are a good person. You are not only handling your finances correctly, but like God is proud of you for like not even
See
putting
that?
yourself in the realm of temptation of going into credit card debt, right? And so I just kept noticing all this anxiety coming up. And so I started to do a little more research and I discovered financial counseling and financial psychology. And I learned that there is actually an approach to money that focuses on your financial wellness as a whole. So not just the amount of money that you have in your bank, not just your credit score, right? Not whether if you have a house or if you own property or not, but whether your values are actually aligned with your financial habits. And so that's when I totally ditched the Dave Ramsey mentality, and I just became I just totally fell in love with financial counseling, and it hit me like, okay, if I struggled with the typical financial gurus that everyone else turns to, Susie Orman. There's so many of it. It's not just Dave Ramsey. Like, there's a
Right.
lot of
And they're
finance.
all great,
They're
but they're
all
not for
great.
everybody,
They're
right?
not for right, like, totally, like, if someone works for you, love that for you. Love if you're able to find financial peace through them. I wasn't. And I have a feeling that other people struggle with the all or nothing mentality
Mhm.
that's presented on social media.
And they
Um,
think, "What's wrong with me? Like,
as
why isn't this working? This should be working for me."
like why can't I budget, right? Like a
Mhm.
budget should be the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And then it
So we
becomes
say.
right, and then it becomes not like, "Oh, it's not just, "Oh, I'm bad at budgeting." It's, "Oh, I'm bad at money." And then, "Oh, I'm a bad person." It's
So
so
true.
easy for that domino effect to
Yep.
happen. And so,
Yeah.
kind of a long-winded story, but I think it's an important one
Yes.
to tell because I think a lot of other people follow in a similar path. They go,
Absolutely.
um right? When you're looking up financial resources, you're automatically gonna gravitate to the big names out there, um, which is why I'm so passionate about financial counseling is I wanna make room for people who need a little bit more of a holistic approach to their
Absolutely.
finances. I'm here for the people like myself who need to consider their mental health in addition to their financial health. And so that's why I bring those two worlds together.
Oh, this is gonna be so beautiful, and I just think it's such a shame how often we let inanimate objects or things
Mhm.
determine our worth
Yes.
and value, and how harmful and damaging that is, and how many people in my own life have made decisions around money that have like resulted in them harming themselves
Ugh.
because they don't know what to do.
Oh, absolutely. And I think sometimes people can, what's the phrase, like turn up their nose. They can kind of sneer at the thought of like, you let money affect you? Really? Like, how shallow can you be? Like, can't you rise above that? Or like, can't
Yeah.
you realize there's more to life than money? Like, why are you letting this affect you so much? But what I don't think people realize is that everything to do in life involves finances at one
In some
point or another
form.
in some form, right? Even
Yeah.
even religion, your ability of whether you can get to church or not determines on your finances. Can you pay
Amen.
gas
Hmm.
to get to church? Can you afford that day off of work to go to church? Or even, like, think about, like, your family, right? The activities you do with your family, the date nights you're able to go on with your spouse, whether or not you're able to hire a babysitter or,
Hmm.
have to rely on family. Do you even have family in the area? Right? There's so many factors that determine the life choices we make, and it's just the harsh fact of life that money is a dominating factor in our decision-making abilities.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Okay, so what do emotions have to do with finance?
Yes, great question. Okay, so our finances I like to think of our finances as a reflection of our values, right? And a reflection of how we're feeling. So if I were to dig into your bank account and I were to go through all your spending and I go through all the
Hmm.
purchases you're making, I could probably identify or take a pretty good guess of what emotion you were feeling when you were making a certain purchase. So, for example, like if I'm seeing that you are buying a lot of clothes,
Yes.
multiple, right? Right. We're going on a lot of shopping spree. I'm kind of curious when my little red flag goes up and I say, okay, pause, like, what's going on here? What is the driving factor to purchasing all these clothes? Is it because we're trying to explore our self-expression and we're having curiosity? Or is it because we're feeling self-conscious and we feel the need to compensate with our wardrobe? Maybe we're feeling some jealousy and we're wanting to mimic what our girlfriends are wearing. So, what emotions have to do with money? Emotions are more often than not the deciding factor in our financial habits and in our financial decisions. And this can be anywhere from as simple as going out to eat on a Friday night to purchasing a home. We like to think that money is all mathematical and it's all logical, but in reality, it's our emotions that are driving our decisions on what we do with our finances.
So, how do we better understand our emotions when it comes to money then?
Yes, love that. So, there is something in the financial world called money scripts. And that's just basically a fancy term for the beliefs we have around money. So, in order to understand our emotions around money, we need to understand our money scripts that we have. Money scripts are developed by the age of 7. So, at a very, very young age, we form these subconscious beliefs around money. Let me give a couple examples. One common belief around money is that money is evil, right? If I have a lot of money, then that says something is wrong with me, right? So if I'm working with a client and we discover that they have this money belief that money is evil, they're probably going to be feeling guilt a lot, right? If they're making a lot of money, they might be feeling some guilt. So we're going to work on unpacking that guilt and where that guilt is coming from. Why do we believe that money is evil? You could also, if someone has that belief that money is evil, they might avoid making certain decisions.
Mhm.
They might not be willing to negotiate for their salary. 'Cause they'll feel it they're like, "I don't deserve to have this money. Money is evil.
Mm,
I don't wanna partake in that," right? Or they might not even look at their budget or go invest.
right.
All
Avoidance.
these other
Yeah.
decisions come from this money belief that money is evil. And so the best thing you can do is learn more about your money beliefs. And a great question you can ask yourself to get started is asking, what is my first money memory? That because remember, your money beliefs develop at a very young age. So the sooner we can go back in time and identify when those patterns started, the more we'll be able to understand why we have certain beliefs.
So then once you've identified them, what's the next step?
Yeah, the next step is going through a journaling process to see when these money beliefs come up. I actually have a really hard time with a lot of budgeting templates because they don't account for these money beliefs. You just have these numbers on a page, how much money you thought you wanted to spend, how much money you actually spent, which is a great place to start. Don't get me wrong, doing something is better than nothing. But what I find is missing is taking some time to evaluate when certain money scripts come up. So, one thing I like to implement in my budgeting practice is I'll literally add another column that says, did any money scripts come up with this purchase, right? And
Okay.
so if I have a line item like grocery shopping, I'll think to the past month and I'll think about, was there any did I experience any anxiety, any intense emotions during while I was making this purchase? And I'll ask, okay, what money belief was coming from that emotion, right? I usually start that with clients who are a little bit more, who are a little bit more self-aware, who are a little maybe a little easier to recall certain
Mhm.
experiences. If you're like, Karina, that is not my strong you want me to think about the past month? Are you kidding me? Like, I can't even think about like what happened yesterday, right? Like that can feel a little overwhelming. If you're totally new with like uncovering your emotions and becoming more emotionally aware, literally, I ask you to either get a little notebook or always have your notes app quickly available. And I want you to start documenting the emotions that come up while making certain financial decisions. Whether this is going shopping or whether this is even just having like a conversation with someone and money comes up. Just start documenting what emotions start bubbling. And maybe you do it like when you're at the checkout line and you just take a moment to jot down, "Oh, while I was, um, while I was comparison shopping different cereal brands, I noticed that I was getting a little frustrated." Write that down. Or you are hanging out with some friends, you're noticing that you're feeling some anxiety, you run to the bathroom and just write real quick, right now we're talking about rent prices in our area, and I'm feeling a little anxious right now. So in the moment, documenting what the event was, what you were talking about or experiencing, and then the emotion that came with it.
Okay. So then you've identified the emotion
Mhm,
or the script.
mhm.
So then how do you change that?
Yes, that's the most important thing, right? It's one
Right?
thing, yes, it's one thing to become aware of it. It's
Mhm.
another thing to do something about it, to change the emotion. So there are 5 tools that I would like to recommend. And, honestly, Brynne, we could spend a whole podcast episode talking about each of these 5 tools.
I
But
love
just to
it.
give it like a top level summary, so let's start with my favorite one, which is self-compassion. So, self-compassion, yes, it's not just like going and giving yourself a little treat, right? Even though it can look like that, there's so many layers to self-compassion. In fact, there's three components of self-compassion that I really like people to focus on. The first one is self-awareness. Now, when most people think of self-awareness, um, they think of just like naming the emotion, which is an important part, but self-awareness also includes, like, recognizing what's like, the physical sensations that are happening in your body when you're feeling that emotion. So it's not, "Oh, I'm feeling angry," it's, "I'm feeling angry and my, like, face is getting red." It's, "I'm feeling anxious and my hands are getting sweaty." We're trying to, like, anchor ourselves in the moment that it was happening. Um so we have this self-awareness component of self-compassion. The next is something called common humanity. So common humanity is recognizing how this moment is part of the human experience. How does this moment make me human? So an example would be, you know, I think at one point or another, everyone feels insecure about their job. At one point or another, I'm gonna feel maybe a little embarrassed about the income that I make, right? Think it's like part of being human is not knowing what certain terms mean. Being human
Love that.
means not knowing certain investment terms. If
Yes.
something's confusing to you, that's part of the confusion is part of the human experience.
And
And
I
so
love that because you're experiencing it, so it's real. Like
yes.
it's like acknowledging your truth
Mhm.
and showing compassion to yourself at the same time.
Right, exactly, and I feel like
I love that.
that's the what's missing often with self-awareness. I once had a therapist tell me that self-awareness without self-compassion is just self-harm.
Mm,
And you even see this in the media today where we're so I think our generation is so hyper aware of our emotions. And it's great to be aware of your emotion. But if you are constantly saying, man, I'm sad all the time, and that's just so dumb. Like my life is so great. Like why is it so hard for me to be happy? Like why am I just this like mopey little girl all the time? Right? That's not okay. Full stop. That's not helpful. No. So that's why when we talk about self-compassion, we have to have common humanity and self-awareness together. Otherwise, it's not true self-compassion. And one other tool that can help is self-kindness or talking to yourself like how you would talk to a friend. So, like, if your friend came to you and said, "Oh, like, I just don't understand insurance. Like, it's so confusing to me." Like, most friends would probably be like, "Girl, like, me too." Like, when I start under like, looking through those terms, like, it can be so overwhelming. Like, no good friend would be like, "You don't know insurance terms? You don't know the difference between a premium and a deductible? Like, that's so dumb, right?" Like, no friend would say that, right? So that's self-compassion. First
okay.
tool for us to move from certain money scripts. I love these self-compassion for money scripts that are very targeted on self. So money scripts that are like, I'm too dumb to understand money, or I'll never have enough money.
Yeah.
Those, because we're very much grappling with a sense of self, so having self-compassion can be very nourishing if you have, those types of money scripts. So that's the first tool. The second tool is boundaries, and how I like to envision boundaries is like a gate. It's not that you have to say no to everything, but you decide when you open the gate and when you close the gate. So, for example, sometimes you'll hear financial gurus say, "You can never have a cup of coffee. You can never go out and buy a swig." That's all or nothing are thinking, and honestly, it's not very helpful,
It's not
right?
sustainable either.
No, no, it's not. In order to have a healthy budget, you actually do need to have some room for what I call guilt-free spending. You have to have some room for fun money in order for your
Mhm.
budget to
I
last.
agree.
And so a boundary is deciding, okay, when am I going to engage in these purchases and when am I not? And so a boundary might look like, okay, I will go out and get drinks with my friends on the weekend, but I'm not going to do it during the weekday.
There you go.
Setting some type of perimeters, some type of time for that gate to open and close. When we think of Disneyland, we love Disneyland, right? We wanna go and have fun, but the park's not open 24/7.
True.
There's a time
Mhm.
and place to go, right? And that's the
Mhm.
same thing with making financial decisions. So that's maybe a boundary with going out with friends. We might have certain boundaries Mm, about more, like, abstract concepts, like conversations.
Okay.
Having a boundary where in order for me to be unified with my spouse, I need to know how much money you're making. That's a boundary. We need to be honest about the income both of us receive. So, I want a boundary where we talk about our what income. I wanna have either a budget or a conversation where we see the money coming in every single month. It's not going out and making a specific purchase, but it's an expectation that you have. So that's another way of what boundaries can look like. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, and I love how boundaries kinda hold you accountable to, like, your goals and what you value. It's like,
Yeah.
"This is my plan." Like, I actually wanna have money to spend so that I can go to Spain.
Yes.
So, in order to do that, I'm gonna hold myself to these boundaries so that I can still have some freedom and enjoy this life rather than
Yes.
just enduring it until I get there. But it helps remind me that actually I'm not spending as much money here because I really want to do this thing. I want to pay off my mortgage. I want to get a new car. I want to take my kids to someplace, right? So I
Yes.
love the concept of boundaries. I think that's really
Right.
healthy.
Well, sometimes it can be it's intimidating to enforce boundaries. I actually find that people are really receptive when you're honest. When you say like, "Hey," like if friends ask you to go out, if you say, "Hey, I'm really trying to prioritize building an emergency fund," 9 times out of 10, people are gonna be like, "That's so cool. Like, way to like take care of you." If
Uh-huh.
you're honest, that's the reason why you're saying no. It takes a little vulnerability, but people respect the
Absolutely.
boundary more.
Yeah, on the vulnerability. I think it's funny that we haven't talked about money for so
Yeah.
long. Like my parents were always very candid. Like we sat and had talks about our family will. Like when I
Uh,
was like 10, 12. I bet I was 12.
Brynne, that's amazing. That doesn't happen.
I
Like,
know. And I realized that pretty early. Like my parents were really on top of it with us and telling us where the money would go. And I loved it. Like we've always talked very candidly about money and finances. And my parents gave us a Roth IRA as like a wedding gift and
wow.
stuff. So yeah, I know it's not normal for most families to have very candid conversations about money, but man, it has empowered me and both of my siblings and just it's funny. We are all very different with our finances and with our money,
Huh.
but none of us are like resentful about money
Mm,
or
mhm.
afraid of money. In
Yeah.
fact, we're all very empowered by it. And I think it's because of the awesome example our parents set
Right.
for us.
Well, I think something key that your parents demonstrated is not to be afraid of money,
Hmm.
because that I think is the dominant emotion that I see across all my clients
Okay.
is there's some type of fear that's happening when they're dealing with money. And so the fact that your parents were able to instill this sense of curiosity and wonder and excitement with money, it just I'm I can only imagine how far it's taken. you.
Yeah, it was very
Um,
much an abundant mindset.
yeah.
Like, if we know that if we share and we give, we will be
Mm,
taken care of, and
yeah.
we work. Like, it's not like it's gonna magically fall from the sky,
Right.
but we are going to do our part, and we're gonna take care of people, and we're gonna save and be frugal where we can, but we're also gonna be have fun and
Mhm.
splurge sometimes.
Yeah.
So, it was just a really healthy balance of, like, if we can save a buck, we're gonna save a buck, but if this is something we really wanna do, let's do it and go
Yeah.
all in on it, and it was just yeah, it was a really cool growing up.
So, okay, so the financial counselor in me wants to ask, how do you feel like this financial abundance affects your relationship today?
Um, I personally am more willing to, like, take risks, like, big
Mm,
risks with money,
mhm.
um, because I'm just not worried, like, if we were to lose it, I'm like, "It's okay, we'll figure it out, like, we'll make it
Yeah.
back," or, like, I'm not afraid to go back to work. I'm a smart woman, like, and but I think a part of it too is I have always just believed I'm pretty awesome. So the value like, what I think about myself and
Mhm.
what I value in myself is also reflected in my relationship with money, I
Yeah.
think. And, as far as our but, of course, bringing in my partner, my husband, that is a different matter. There's been some struggles there because we are very different people when it comes to spending money and handling money. So
Yeah.
on my own, I'm pretty confident and I'm not
Mhm.
afraid, but my sweet husband is definitely more the, like, cautious one. Which is
Mhm.
really good because I would probably be like, "Oh, let's do all this with our money. Let's go big here." And he's kinda like the, "Whoa, let's rein it in a
Slow
little
down.
bit." Yeah,
Yeah.
let's slow down so we balance each other out really well.
Ugh, I love hearing that. I think a good point you brought up is when you're in a relationship, right? And I think this is one of the questions that you have later is right, like you have your set of money beliefs, but then you have your partner's money beliefs as well.
Mhm.
And so how can we in a relationship navigate both of these money beliefs that are happening at the same time? Which is why going back to the tools, something like boundaries can really help because it can help you articulate like I right now I am coming from a place of fear. I am really nervous that if we go on this trip, that we're not going to have savings in the future. And so then you can, as a couple, navigate an appropriate boundary. Not saying that the person who's coming from a place of fear should get to decide your savings amount, but it's a good conversation starter for figuring out like what's a good middle ground, right? What's a boundary we want to set as a couple that works for the both of us.
Like you said, it's not black and white. It's not
Mhm.
either or. It's how can
Right.
we do both? Like, how can we honor
Yes.
both of our desires and our perspectives rather
Mhm.
than I'm right, you're wrong?
Right. Exactly. Right. And that's how ultimately you find financial unity is by being able to recognize and accept both of your perspectives as true and not right that's really the true sign of maturity is being able to hold maybe like two contradictory ideas and realize that both of them have value and both of them have merit. So if you have a spender and a saver, right? Real financial maturity is realizing like, okay, I can save and spend, not just one or the other.
I love
Mm,
that. And
mm,
like you you saving as a priority is true for you. And
mhm,
I can see that and I can accept that. But that's not necessarily how I see life and how I approach it. And that's true for me.
mhm.
Isn't that fascinating? Okay,
Oh,
let's
yeah.
get to work on figuring out how to make this awesome,
Right.
right? Like it's bringing everyone's perspectives and strengths and weaknesses
Mhm.
to the table and rising with all of it together.
Right. Well, and, like, an additional tool that might help in a conversation, right, like that, isn't just saying, like, "Oh, you're a saver and I'm a spender,"
Hmm?
but is actually maybe identifying a core value that both of you share and recognizing how your different approaches might honor that value. So let's
Working
think
towards the same
of
thing.
yeah, right. So let's say like your value is freedom. I've really encouraged people when they're trying to discover their values to focus on like abstract concepts. So like things like love, curiosity, um, safety, security, things we can't
Mhm.
physically touch, but these
Right.
abstract values. So if you value freedom, try to figure out ways how both of your maybe natural inclinations honors that value of freedom. Being able
Yeah.
to like go explore and have an amazing trip, that might be how one person expresses freedom. But for another person, having a strong and solid emergency fund, that gives them freedom to quit their job whenever they want. And so it's finding different ways of how you can honor that value that you both share.
Yeah.
Um,
And in fact, now that I'm thinking about it, when I started taking, budgeting really seriously, like 3 years ago, my husband and I had some uncomfortable financial conversations, and he's definitely a typical saver,
yeah.
but I also, like I told him, I was like, "I don't want to just work on saving and paying off debt, and then our children are grown up and we haven't done anything." And so, for me, I guess it was kind of more like freedom and experiences, but for him, it was too. But the
Mhm.
means of getting there was the saving and paying off, so then
Right.
we could pay. So we realized that we needed to take both of our mindsets and
Yes.
split them in half. So we
Yes.
put half of it in savings and half of it towards the vacation fund,
Right.
right? And maybe the vacations don't happen as quickly as I would want them to, but
Mhm.
they're still happening.
Right.
And it's because we did have those hard conversations and we came to the conclusion like, oh, we both are kind of working towards the same thing and actually do value the same things. We just approach it differently.
Yeah, definitely. How do you feel like the dynamic in your relationship changed after having those conversations?
Well, there's no more guesswork or
Mhm.
assumptions,
Yeah.
which is so freeing
Yeah,
because then you just know. And it's that vulnerability and that willingness to step into the uncomfortable. But I believe on the other side, it's worthwhile because then you can work towards something together rather than just always avoiding it or tiptoeing around it or living on a prayer, right? And to me, it's taking control of your life and creating the life that you actually want to live
Mhm.
rather than just
Absolutely.
hoping and praying that you'll get there one day.
Right. I think from what I'm hearing, right, it's being intentional.
Mm,
There's much more, um, there's there's much more intentionality when you have open discussions with your partner about finances rather than going 10, 20 years and being like, how did we end up here? Right?
yeah,
It takes the guesswork out of it. I realize I brought us on a total tangent. Let me just give you
I
the
think I
last.
did. Sorry.
No, it's so good. No, there's so many. Oh, like I said, could talk about this for hours. Let me just wrap up quickly the other tools that can help you move away from money beliefs. So we talked about self-compassion, boundaries. One I like to call space. And sometimes people are like, how is space different than boundaries? Like I don't understand the difference. And so I like to think of boundaries as like kind of having a certain point, a certain limit, right? Space is giving yourself like ultimate freedom or ultimate like there's no parameters with it. So in fact they're actually kind of like opposites of each other. So boundaries, right? We're setting a certain limit. Space, we're giving us the freedom to move. Typically, when I see people needing more space, it's when they're feeling pressure to make a certain financial decision, right? They feel like, I have to buy this car now, or otherwise I'm going to lose out on a deal.
Mhm.
And it's really like, no, if you find yourself making these financial purchases that feel like impulses, then maybe we need to give ourselves more space, some more time to make these decisions. So giving ourselves space can look like time, but it also could mean like physical space. So if you are noticing that you go to a certain store and you just can't help yourself, you just love to spend there, right? For me, I know that I can go to a thrift store and I can just spend, like, I love thrifting. Thrifting is so much fun for me. So maybe sometimes I need to give myself a little space and I need to move away from that area. Or it might be having a conversation with our partner. Maybe our partner is always bringing up investing, and maybe we just need a little space from the conversation for a little bit. We just need to give ourselves a breather so that we can both maybe settle down, take a few breaths, recenter on our values, and then we can come back together. So, space is another tool. If you have the money belief of anything tied to urgency, like I'm gonna lose something,
Mhm.
or I'm at risk, like I'm gonna be exposed, right? Any type of money beliefs that have that needs that instant gratification, I really encourage my clients to maybe give themselves more space. One of them also is actually just congratulating yourself, and I call this aligned. This is just telling yourself that, you know what? I feel really aligned with my values. And some people are like, how is that like a tool to move yourself like away from money beliefs? It's actually extremely important to recognize the times we feel like we had a financial win, right? The times we feel like we were aligned with how we want to spend our lives. Because if we don't take times to recognize when we did it right, it's going to be much harder to replicate it in the future and to replicate it with other things. So maybe you have a hard time talking about finances with your spouse, but you find it really easy to talk about finances with your friends. And
Yeah.
so if you can recognize that financial win and see like, okay, what makes it comfortable for me to talk about finances with my friends, then you're able to maybe take the the ease of conversation. Maybe there wasn't a lot of pressure. Maybe it was the time of day, right? Any of those components that helped us with our friends, then maybe let's try applying that to our spouse. So making sure that we're aligned, that's another great way to overcome any type of money beliefs. I like to suggest people feeling aligned when they're actually really good at something else, but they're struggling with their finances. So, like, if you're really good at working out, okay, let's figure out what makes you so good at working out, and we can
There
apply
you
that
go.
to your finances, right? Maybe you're like so good at baking or be like making sure you're eating healthy. Okay, let's figure out what makes you like such an amazing nutritionist and let's apply that to your finances. So, anyone who's already having like a super strong skill somewhere else, let's apply that to your finances. And then our last one is intentionality. So, how can we be more intentional, either with the conversations or financial decisions that we're making? So many times I'll be working over people's budgets and I'll ask them, okay, why did you make that purchase? Why did you buy those groceries that you bought? And a lot of time I'll be like, well, that's just what we've always done, right? My mom
Yeah.
bought this brand of butter, so I'm going to buy this.
True. Yeah.
Or we've always we've always had date nights on Fridays, so we're just gonna keep having date nights every single Friday. However, when we take time to analyze, okay, am I making this decision because it's aligned with my values, or am I doing it because it's rushed or because it's something we've always done?
Mhm.
then maybe we can analyze maybe a little more on how to have a little bit more intentionality with our finances.
That's really good. I'm thinking of some of my own grocery spending habits in this moment.
Mhm.
I'm like,
Like,
maybe I don't
why
need to have a drawer full of snacks that
right?
are convenient to grab. But I was thinking, like, that word came to my mind. I was like, well, I value convenience,
Mhm.
especially it seems like with each baby I
Yeah.
have when they're in newborn phase.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just surviving, right?
Right.
So I think that's important too, is acknowledging that our money habits and expenditures can evolve and change, and
Oh,
they are going to. And
absolutely.
but the awareness is the
Mhm.
key factor to recognizing that. Like,
Right.
oh, like, my convenience phase is kind of fizzling right now. I'm like, "Okay,
Mhm.
I'm actually wanting to make more dinners rather than buy frozen and prepackaged stuff and eat out so much." Because now I'm
Absolutely.
15 months postpartum and I'm feeling a
Mhm.
lot better, and so that compassion, that awareness, um, it's definitely critical.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. That different phases in our lives are going to mean different financial decisions, which is why there is no such thing as a one size fits all when it comes to money. That's why personal finance is personal because depending on the stage of life you're in, I can't give you the same advice if I was talking to someone in their 60s or someone who's starting college for the first time, right? The decisions we make have to be different because 'cause we're in a different circumstance in our lives.
Yeah, but I love that these 5, skills, what do you call them?
Yeah, like 5 tools, yeah.
The 5 tools, they're applicable in any phase of life, though,
Mhm.
to,
Yeah,
like, better understand your financial wellness.
yeah.
So good. Okay, I know we've kinda talked about this, but do you have any more, like, tips or on ways that we can have productive conversations with our spouses and partners about money?
Yes, something I'm so passionate about is, if you're in a relationship, you need to go on a money date on a regular basis. Uh,
Okay.
have you ever heard of a money date? Or
I
am I the
have
first?
not.
Okay, let me spread you the gospel of money dates.
I'm
It
here for
oh
it.
oh my gosh, I honestly think money dates are can be one of the most life-changing tools for couples. So,
Okay.
on a regular basis, whether this is once a month, every couple weeks, you decide the frequency. You and your partner are gonna get together, and you're gonna start with something fun that you both love, whether that's getting sushi or getting smoothies or even keeping it more low key and lighting candles in your living room and having some music playing. Anything that, like, gets you pumped and both of you just, like, so excited to do something, we're gonna start with some type of activity. I think last and it can change. 1 month, my husband and I, we got pizza, and that was our activity that got us excited. For a while, we were really obsessed with these Nutella milkshakes that, like, a local restaurant was sold, and so we would go get that for our money
Fun.
dates. Yeah, so something fun. And then you're gonna start with some type of acknowledgement, some type of gratitude towards the other person. So saying, "Thank you so much for taking care of the utility bill this month. That took it off my plate." Or, "Thank you for taking care of the kids so I could work on my passion project." Like, that meant a lot to me. So starting on a tone of gratitude. Um, I'm curious, why do you think I, like, even suggest starting off with those 2 things?
Well, I'm thinking in this moment, like, how often I've, like, looked at my partner and be like, "Thank you."
Yeah.
Like, in passing, I'm like, "Oh, thanks for doing that," you know?
Right,
But,
right.
like, to just genuinely look at them and take a moment to acknowledge
Mm.
something
Mhm.
that they did, this seems really powerful.
It is. It is incredibly powerful because it makes 1, it makes the other person feel seen. 2, you're able instead of thinking about like, "Oh, you're doing this and it's driving me crazy. Like, can we please work on it?" Right? You're recognizing the good in your spouse. Third
Yeah.
thing is we start to associate positive things with money by starting with this tone of gratitude and by doing some type of fun activity. So many people have the money belief that money is scary or money is uncomfortable. And so going on these money dates is training our brain to recognize, like, hey, money can be fun. Money can be like a time to express gratitude, right? We start forming these
Yes.
positive connections with money. So that's why we want to start out with having some type of fun activity and expressing gratitude towards each other. The next thing that we're going to do on this money date is we're going to talk about our wins, our financial wins. So, whether that's we are even going on this money date, that is a financial win right there. We're starting to talk about money. Or we stuck to our budget for this month. Finding something, it doesn't matter how big or small, but finding some way to acknowledge a win for the month. And that's similar to using that tool of alignment before. We're wanting to start recognizing positive patterns, strengths that we already have in finances so we can build momentum off of those wins. So that's
Yes.
the third part to the money date. The next is you're each gonna bring something you want to talk about with money. And we want to keep this to only 2 items per person max. The reason why is money can get overwhelming, right?
Yes.
And something that a pattern I see a lot with couples is a, a chaser avoider dynamic where one person really wants to talk about money. They're the chaser. They're the one that's always bringing it up. They want to have conversations all the time. They want to make sure we're sticking to the budget, right? Their money is always on their mind. And then we have the avoider in the relationship
Uh-huh.
where anytime money gets brought up, they want to shrug it off or talk about it later, or they put their hands up in the air and say, this is too much for me. Let's circle
Yeah.
about this later. Having only up to 2 items per person, one reassures the chaser that things will get talked about at some point, while the avoider knows that the conversation isn't going to be 2 to 3 hours long. Right? They're not gonna be overwhelmed by it, right? In my relationship, you can probably guess I'm the chaser. I'm the one that always wants to bring finances up, right? Because it's my passion and I love talking about it. And my husband, while he is very much on top of his finances, just in our dynamic, he's the avoider because I'm always trying to find solutions. And he's like, Karina, like, we're good. It's fine. Like, we're in a good why are you trying to make a good like, why are you trying to mess with a good situation, right?
Yeah.
And so when we have these money dates, it gives me the relief like, "Oh, okay, I can, like, say like, what is most pressing to me, what is top of mind," and
Mhm.
he knows that what I'm saying is most important,
Yes.
because if I could talk to him about money all day long, but he doesn't know what the real priority is if I'm always talking about it 24/7. But if I bring the top 2 things, he knows that those things really do matter to me. So, that's why
Awesome.
we wanna have 1 to 2 items. These items can be anything from I want to figure out our Christmas budget, how much money we're spending on presents, to I don't really like how we talk about money in front of our parents. Can
Mm,
we adjust the language we use? Any concerns that you have, that's when you're going to bring it up.
okay.
Yep. And then you're just going to do a quick overview of your budget. This is not you filling out your budget and putting in the line items. This is just an overview of what did we spend next month? What do we anticipate for next month? And then you're going to end it. And that's it. That's a money date.
Okay. That is so clever. And I love it. And again, it takes out like all the assumptions
Mhm.
and the tiptoeing and awkwardness and frustration, like all those emotions that we tend to just avoid, but end
Mhm.
up feeling all the
Right.
time
Yes.
because we just aren't addressing what's causing it.
Right, you're not addressing the core issue of it. And doing it on a money day, it helps take the heat of the moment away because you started out on a good foot. You both know that you love each other. You both know that you're in a safe environment. One of the key components to having tough conversations, this isn't just with money, this was any tough conversation, that in order to talk about hard topics, we first need to establish a place of safety. The other person needs to know that they're not going to be threatened, that I'm not
Yeah.
coming from a place of cruelty. And so that's why money dates are so powerful is because it creates this safe environment to talk about those hard
Yeah.
topics.
And you don't blindside your partner. Like,
No.
hey, let's talk about your spending habits.
Right, right, absolutely.
Right?
Right, and even this is gonna sound so nerdy, but I promise it helps. I even tell couples to make an agenda item before their money date. So that way, your partner knows the things you're going to talk
I think
about
that's
before.
brilliant. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, like, to take away that blind set component
Uh-huh.
that you talked about, if you want to talk about 401(k)s, your partner can know beforehand and maybe do a little research if they want to, right? To get a little bit more educated on
I
the
love that.
topic. Um,
So good. So good. So empowering. All of it.
ugh,
I am curious though, can you help normalize for all of us who struggle with our finances?
mhm.
What are some of the main points that you tend to address with your clients?
Yes, um, the number one, having conversations with your partner about money.
Okay.
That's the number one struggle I see. It's how do we have effective communication? How do we avoid just talking in circles without
Yeah.
being super heated, without blaming each other at the end, right? And so really the first step, it's similar to what we talked about before, just like how you have to understand your money beliefs, you gotta understand your partner's money beliefs, and I actually have, like, a whole questionnaire set of questions you can ask your partner on how to how to uncover your partner's money beliefs to understand where they're coming from. I'm happy to put that, to send you that link. If you wanna put that in the show notes, I'm happy to share that with everyone so they can start to understand where their partner's coming from.
Excellent. Yes. So if you are feeling alone, that you and your sweet other are not getting this and struggling and frustrated, you
Yeah.
are not alone.
No.
And it really can get better and it can become fun. Like money is fun. It really can be. I think it's
Yes.
fun. I think it's
Money can
empowering. I think it's fun.
mhm.
It's awesome.
It can bring you so much joy, right? I often think of the scripture, right? Adam felt that men might be and men are, that they might have joy. Guess
Love
what?
it.
That includes your money. That includes your finances. You are meant to have joy
I
with your
agree.
money and have joy with your partner on money, right?
Yeah.
So you're totally right. You're not alone if the joy isn't currently there, but it can get there.
Yep. Okay,
Mm.
one last thing, and I thought about this for Karina because this is something I've
Mhm,
been stewing over and
mhm,
trying to figure out for myself.
mhm.
So the question I have for you is, how does a couple think? How could a couple think about their financial finances when only one of them is bringing money in? So,
Yeah.
like, I'm a stay-at-home mom, right?
Uh-huh.
and I, and there's lots of thoughts and feelings that people have about
Mhm.
being a stay-at-home mom and I don't bring much money in. I have a little Etsy shop and I bring in like $100 to $200 a
Yeah.
month. But I've been like, what is my role? What is my
Mhm.
contribution in all of this? So, like, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so you actually said the golden word that's behind this question, which is contribution. So many couples struggle with this, and really at the core of it, the non-working spouse really just wants to feel like they're contributing to the relationship. That's the core fear is, am I enough in this relationship? Am I contributing enough? Am I bringing value to our relationship? And let me say, this isn't just for stay-at-home moms or non-working spouses. I feel like this is even true when there's an income discrepancy between spouses, where one spouse might be making way more than the other, and the lower income partner is like, is what I'm bringing even making a difference? Is
Mm,
it like, would my partner even notice if I stopped working? Do
yeah,
I make an impact? But again, we're going back to that the core fear is contribution. And really it's a fear of, am I enough? Am
yeah,
I doing enough? So what I would invite the two of you to talk about is recognize ways that the non-working spouse is contributing to the household in other ways. So whether that's the housework, right, that you're doing, or the picking kids up, right? All the other things that stay-at-home moms do that they don't get paid for. All the labored tasks that doesn't get accounted for. So for example, I'm the spouse that doesn't make as much money as my husband. My husband, he's in software engineering, he's in tech, way more money than I make in like the social services
yeah,
arena. And so when I'm feeling down on myself, I will even outside of having conversations with my husband, I try to recognize, okay, like I'm the one plugging the numbers in our budget, right? I'm the one going to the bank to make sure that our utilities gets billed and it gets paid. I'm the one going and making sure everyone gets a present on their birthday. And if you think about it, like if you paid someone to go do all these things that a stay-at-home mom does or that the non-working spouse does, it adds up over time. Do you know how much money it would be to pay someone to cook for your family? To pay someone to chauffeur your kids around? Like, it I know it might not seem intuitive, but, like, that's money you're saving your family by you
uh-huh,
doing that. It's kind of like a reverse salary
yeah,
that you're bringing, so I don't know if that was helpful at all, um, but I would, 1, try to identify ways that you just manage your household as a whole and acknowledge the work that you do, but on top of that, recognize ways that you are enough and that maybe let me rephrase that. Maybe recognize what you bring to your relationship as a whole, even on the emotional end. When I think of like the family proclamation, something that I think a lot of people get hung up on is like men need to provide, right? Men are the
yeah,
provider. And we often think of that in like an economic sense, like they bring home the money.
uh-huh,
But there are other ways that men can provide. They can provide a sense of safety, they can provide stability, they can provide empathy, they can provide kindness. And it's the same thing for the non-working spouse. What you're providing might not be the income, but you might be providing reassurance. You might be providing kindness. You
uh-huh,
might be providing um, excitement in the relationship. And so there are when it comes to family and finances, this is where emotions come in again. It's not just the physical money that matters
Mhm.
in your finances, it's the emotion and the tone that you bring to the relationship as well.
Yeah. Well, and I'm thinking in this moment too, I'm going back to like, well, what is it that we're both even working for?
Mhm,
Like, why is he going to work every day and why am I even doing what I'm doing?
mhm,
What is it that we both value?
yeah,
And that would be a good conversation to
mhm,
have. But I'm thinking it's probably like our family, like our unit, and just taking care of each other, and finances are a part of that.
yeah,
And we both are taking care of our family in different ways.
mhm, right? You might take care of your family by, listening to your kids talk about the adventures that they had at school or some drama that they're having with
Uh-huh.
their friends. But taking care of your family could also look like, right, being able to pay for the different activities they wanna go do. I do want to provide one maybe word of caution.
Okay.
Um, I hear a lot of people say that the reason they work for their finances or they work so hard at their job is for their family, which
Okay.
I love family. Family is great. However, a lot of times families the value of family can be misconstrued to guide us to some unhealthy behaviors. I want you to think what advertisers do, right? They'll have a product and they'll say, "Want to be the coolest mom? Buy this toy, buy this Paw Patrol toy for your kid." And of course, everyone wants to be the coolest mom. Every dad wants to be the cool dad. And so advertisers might use certain messages to say, for you to be a good provider for your family, you have to buy this. We see
Uh-huh.
that in the shopping area, but we can also see this with money beliefs. If I work all day, if I work super hard, then I'll be a good dad.
Enough.
I'll be enough. I'll be a good mom. But it's not just working hard, right? There's so many other components.
Uh,
Oh, like if I spend money on my kids and on nothing else, then I'm a good mom, right?
uh,
If I ignore investing, if I ignore savings, but I spend on my kids, then I'm a good mom. And so a little tweak I like to suggest is, okay, let's not make it about your family. Anything that can be taken away, that's not a concrete value that can last us a lifetime. And so I like to suggest maybe is it connection that you're striving for? Do I value connection? If you value connection, that's a totally different thing than saying I value family. So if I'm trying to connect with my sweet niece, and I'm evaluating what I'm gonna purchase her for her birthday. If I truly value connection, I'm not just gonna buy, like, a random toy that she might use once. I'm not just gonna I might not buy her a Barbie because I'm not sure how that's going to fuel connection, but maybe I buy, like I'll tell her for her birthday, "Let's go get our nails done," as, like, aunt and niece, right? So that time
yeah.
we're spending, we're forming a connection with each other. Are you hearing, like, the
Yeah.
differences? Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I think that was really good. And you've mentioned a couple of times how values are they're abstract. Like it's not something you can tangible. And I like how you said if it can be taken away,
Right,
like physically.
right.
So
I know that sounds so terrible to think about, but, like, it's the sad truth that, like, family
mhm.
members can be taken away from us, whether that's through death, divorce, or people moving away. Family members can be gone, and so if we form our entire identity on a single person, we're not going to have the self-confidence to guide us through all our different phases of life. And also, like, us humans, we're multifaceted human beings. You are a mother and a wife and a daughter of God and a creator. There's so many different parts of
Mhm.
you that deserve to be recognized and that deserve to be valued.
That's so beautiful. Thank you, Karina. This has just been so beautiful. And I appreciate your work and your honesty and what you're contributing to the world. And I mean, how old are you?
I'm 26.
Yeah, I'm just like so excited to see where your career takes you and
You're
the
so
all the
sweet.
people that you're going to impact and free and liberate and empower, and because money is such an integral part of our
Uh,
lives. And I just a reminder that it can be fun. Like
yes.
I do think that we will experience both. We're here to have hard and heavy, and but also the the light and the freeing and the fun. But yeah, money is a big part of this life experience.
Well, thank you so much for having me on and giving me a space to ramble and have all my different money thoughts. But really, I just totally want to echo what you said that if you're currently struggling with money, I want you to know how normal it is. It's so easy for us to talk about religion, politics, even sex. We sometimes
Mhm.
feel more comfortable talking about those things than
Okay.
money.
Yeah.
And so if you're struggling to talk about it, just know you're not alone and that there are resources like financial counseling that can.
Awesome. So how can we find you?
Yes, so I am on all the socials, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest at Get Emotionally Invested. I also have a website with that same name. And if you want to set up a financial counseling session with me, go ahead and head to my website or you can DM me on Instagram. Either one is great. All my first sessions are free just because I like to give people a chance to figure out if I'm a good fit. And so that's how you can connect with me.
Awesome. And make sure you let her know that you heard her through the Middle Ground podcast
Yes.
so that you'll have that connection and she'll know kind of what you're aware of.
Yeah.
So beautiful. Thank you so much, Karina.
Before you go, if this episode resonated with you, or perhaps someone came to mind that you could share it with, if you wouldn't mind sharing, that would be amazing. Or you can leave a review or follow the Middle Ground podcast. All of these things will help the algorithm, because that is a real thing, allow people to find my podcasting community so much easier, and is essential for the growth of this podcast, and I would appreciate it so much. So remember, stay curious, spread love, and I hope you have an amazing day, evening, wherever you are, whatever you are doing.